You have the ability to make this the best year of your life. You also have the same ability to make it your worst. So let me ask you this question. What can we do to make it the best year ever? I think it's possible, and I think it requires these three things. Number one is striving for balance. Life is full of imbalance. It's going to be difficult to be fully balanced at any point in time in your life if you're really trying to do something big in any one of the areas. Number two is that we're making improvements in the areas that matter most to us, prioritizing the very top priorities and moving forward through them to attain them. Number three is enjoying the process. You have to actually love the practice as much as you love the result. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you the methods to make it the very best year ever. And guess what? You can start it anytime. The middle, the end, the very beginning, but let's start now. So when I start thinking about making this the best year ever, I have to use my life model. I've been using this life model for many, many years now, and it's really paid off to help me identify the most important things in my life right now and how I'm aiming to attain them, make them better, or grow. This is a process I use. Life is an acronym: love, impact, faith, and energy. Here's what that means. Love is the who's in my life, the people that matter most, the people I want more of, the people I want to spend more time with, and the things I want to do with them. Number two is impact. It's beyond my career. It's what I want to do every day that makes a difference. What am I doing that I feel accomplished about? What are these accomplishments I'm aiming towards? My impact is so much more than my career. My faith is something bigger than myself. It's getting rid of the ego and focusing on the things that ground me. For me, it's God. Any level of spirituality is important here, but it's gotta be outside of yourself. And last is the energy. How we show up to the world. How do we show up? Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit. This is where I talk about my health and I focus and prioritize being a strong version. If I take the how of energy and the why of faith and I put them on the bottom part of these four quadrants in the life model, I have a strong foundation to build a better impact and to be the best version of myself for the people I love. That's the model in a nutshell. How do I use it to make it a year of excellence? To achieve everything that I want to attain? The first thing I do is I brain dump. I don't know if any of you have ever done brain dumping, but for me, when I brain dump, I get everything that's up here out on paper. So I take a huge piece of paper, one that I'm sitting with right now, and I basically take this big calendar paper and I draw a line down the middle and a line across, and I create 4 parts. Those 4 parts become love, impact, faith, and energy. And then I spend the next several hours just writing everything down that pertains to each of those categories. Now, how does a brain dump get me to the best year ever? That's what we all need to know. I have to get it from here in my brain onto the paper, and then I have to start identifying why I wrote it down. What's important about it? Are there actually action items inside of it? And I really use the brain dump to actually take it a step further. I start to interconnect between the two areas. There's a process that I go through, but by laying it all out on paper, I'm making sure that what's most important to me is actually most important to me. Very many times in our lives, we say things to people, even to ourselves, that we think are gonna make us happy. We think it's gonna be the best year ever if this happens. When you actually think and you write it down and you look at it, it doesn't always match. And that's what I found for myself, doesn't always match. So this actually allows me to lay out the year, to set the goals, to set the expectations, to set the parameters, to add accountability, and develop it, and develop the plan that I will live by to succeed so I can enjoy the process, so I can work on getting better, and most of all, so I can have that imbalanced balance that I'm aiming for. So the brain dump is just the first step. The second step is, what does it all mean? The very first thing that I do is I have to create some thinking time to look back at what I wrote and really evaluate if it matches what's most important to me. Like I said in the beginning, sometimes what I thought I wanted and what I actually want aren't aligned. And this is an exercise I do to start. I just go back and I reread what's on the page and I start to circle, highlight, underline, cross out. I just start to go through and evaluate what, how, why, and who are the most important parts on that page. And when I'm doing this, what I'm actually doing is I'm refining the thought process. The brain dump is exactly what it sounds like. It's chaos. In fact, my son walked in when I finished this exercise on the 1st of January this year, and I said, wow, I've been here all day. It was like 4:30 in the afternoon. And he goes, Dad, it looks like you just threw up all over that page. And I said, I did. I just threw everything on my brain on one page, but it's the starting point. You have to have the starting point. From there, what you have to do is start to prioritize the things that are most important to you. That's something that a lot of people talk about in the new year. You want to be skinnier, you want to be healthier, you want to eat healthier, right? Well, if I wrote down those things, I have to start to circle the things that are most important, and I have to start to look at commonalities that are maybe 10x versus 1x. So what I mean by that is, what's a lifestyle change that I can make that's going to impact 3 or 4 of the things I wrote down versus one thing at a time. I'm not a little small bite-sized kind of person. I want to look at the whole goal and look at how I can accomplish as much of this area as I possibly can, but I break it down into the bite-sized areas by looking at the exponential effects. So if I know I'm going to have a healthier year, what's going to start my year off right? Well, it could be as simple as waking up an hour earlier might actually allow me to have the time to make breakfast. It might allow me to have the time to get the workout in. It might allow me to have the time to have some of the conversations with my children pre-school time. Like there's multiple things that one decision could do to impact all 4 of my categories here. And that's the thing I'm looking for, is the commonality both in one quadrant as well as the commonality between how one might impact the other. Those are 10x type moves that you can't find until you start to study and prioritize the most important things on the page. I wrote down meditation for probably 3 years as a goal and objective and never actually accomplished it. I started it, I quit. I started it, I quit. I did this over and over and over again. And several years ago, probably 5 years ago, I had to break it down to 1 minute a day. 1 minute every day, 90 days later, became 5 minutes every day. 5 minutes every day became 10 minutes every day. I started to build in the habits and build off of the initial start. So I found that sometimes things are hard to get started and you might write it down and want to accomplish it, but I didn't actually succeed. I was failing at it every single time I tried. So I got it down so granular that I actually started to accomplish it in really, really small bites. If we take this goal, the next thing is it's just a goal, right? Okay, I want to meditate 1 minute a day. How does that actually help me? It actually sets a habit that every single day I started my day with this. It added calm and peace to my morning. It stopped me from rushing. It started to allow me to think before I just started acting. I wasn't checking email right away. It was such an impactful small move that it actually allowed me to have the payout. So when we start talking about having the best year ever, it starts with identifying the most important things we're aiming for, why they matter, and something as simple as starting my day slow became the best thing I've done the last 5 years for myself. It allows me to start every day with a clear picture of what I want to accomplish. And I actually start slow on purpose now and have built this into every single day. So when I look back on the year that I accomplished this, it wasn't the only thing, like I just didn't write it as a goal to just complete the goal. The goal was a part of making it a better year. The goal was a part of the bigger picture. It was one small thing, one fraction to help make the year even better and have exponential results. So if you want to get started and you want to actually accomplish it, you don't want it to be like a New Year's resolution where you're going to bail on it 2 weeks, 3 weeks in. You have to actually build some infrastructure around the objective. If the goal or objective is to meditate every morning, you need to anchor it to something. BJ Fogg talks about this in Tiny Habits. Anchor it to something you're already doing every day. I anchored it towards waking up. Every day, have to wake up before I get out of bed. Here's one thing I'm going to do. The other thing I recommend is stacking. I took 1 minute of meditation, turned it into 20 to 25 minutes of reading, slow pace, easing out of the bed and getting into the day. That impacted my entire day. So having the ability to anchor it, to stack it, and what I'm really talking about here is you're building habits and the discipline around those habits. Sometimes they're super big goals that you've written down, super big things you want to accomplish. Sometimes they're super small and they might really be impactful to each other. I can remember 7, 8 years ago when I was starting my business, I was actually writing down all of these things that I wanted to accomplish, who I wanted to do it with, how I was going to do it, what the impact was going to be. And I was going through this exact process, but I needed accountability. Everyone needs some level of accountability. I used the Best Self Journal. At the time, there's a journal called the Best Self Journal. They're still out there. It's a great 90-day plan. I actually wrote down what were the most important pieces to getting the business off the ground, and then broke each goal down by actually prioritizing each day, working towards the 90-day goal, and then looking at it every single day to see what I accomplished. Along the way, I had to enjoy the ride. Remember, we talked about that. And enjoying the ride, I had to focus on gratitude. What am I grateful for today? I did it every morning and I did it every evening. And then the other thing I did was I set a priority, not priorities, a priority every single day. By setting a priority, I knew that if I got that one thing accomplished, that would be the most important thing and it would catapult me to having more success in my day. I did this to get a business off the ground that started from zero and now has tens of millions of dollars in revenue every single year. It didn't start that way, but it started with my life model and developing it in a way that broke it down so I could be accountable. The other thing I do is I keep this life model in front of me for the 90-day period. And I use these big calendars, these desk calendars, because the truth is you can rip it off and then you can tuck it underneath when you're ready to do the next one. So usually about 90 to 180 days out, I will do another one. Let's call it 90 days for the exercise. For you, I do it 90 days and I go in and I actually redo the exercise. What I find is so many of the things I wrote down 90 days ago have been accomplished. So many things I've initiated. Sometimes I even take my cell phone here and I go into notes and I type in the goal that I have or the quadrant or love and I just bullet point bubbles of the things I'm trying to accomplish so it's right in front of me every day and I can actually check them off like to-dos. You have to find what works for you, but for me, these are things I've used on a regular basis. The big calendar, writing it down, the accountability, the Best Self Journal. All these things have helped me accomplish goals every single year, sometimes pretty big ones. Sometimes they're as small as meditation for 1 minute every day. I don't need the journal to create the meditation habit. I just need to do it. There are some things I needed to journal about. There are some things I just needed to build a habit around. So it's important for us to decide what works for us. For me, I prioritize and I build around those things and I hold myself accountable. I also do something really, really smart, and that is I tell someone about it. If it's important to you, who are you telling? Who are you sharing it with? I have lots of people in my business, in my family, around me that I share objectives, goals, things that I want to accomplish. You know, sometimes someone will ask me a question and I'll just start going off because I've already thought about it. It's not just like, it's not brain dumping. I've already done that. I have it laid out and labeled now. I'm organized. I'm process driven. I'm successful because I did the work on the front end. I have one extra secret that I want to share. Something that I think is really important to this process. I write down way more than I'm ever going to accomplish. So I have to have grace for myself. I've prioritized these things that are important, and that's what's most important. But I brain dump everything that's important. Sometimes this year's goals, this year's objectives don't fit in with everything I wrote down. But it's okay, because very many times in years in the future, I end up accomplishing those things as well. So think big, dream big, build the life you always dreamed of. And if you're really interested in this, watch this next video, which will teach you the actual model and how to go in and develop this process.